Hey there, mamas! Today I'm going to be sewing pretty basic reversible or lined apron, and it could be a kitchen apron, it could be a craft apron. If you wanted to get more detailed, you could add trim or you could add a pocket, but this is going to be just very, very basic. And this one is just using 2 layers of quilting cotton, but you could make a shop apron and use canvas. Instead of using your own bias tape style straps, you could use webbing and buckles. So the same kind of general idea can be used for pretty much any apron, and then you could just sort of modify it from there. If you've got some quilting cotton laying around, this is a great way to just kind of do a really simple kitchen sew with it. You could make them kid size, you could make them adult size. You can really sort of modify however you want it to be. I don't have a specific pattern for this, it's just kind of a general shape. For me, because I'm pretty average sized, I've got the top about 10 inches across before sewing. It'll be a little narrower after sewing because of the turning space. And then I've got mine about 30 inches long, but if you're tall, you could do 36. If you're short, you could do 24. If you want to do a trimmed one, you can make it shorter. And for my width, I've got it just 24 inches. And again, you could make it wider and have it wrap around more, or you could have it just be a straight up and down narrow one, especially for kids who don't have much in the way of curves. You know, that would work fine. A lot of times craft aprons just go a little bit wider, and they're not quite as wraparound as kitchen aprons. So I have my front piece, and then I have my back piece. For me, I'm just using plain white, but you could make it a different print so that it's reversible. And then this is cut the same way as this. And then I have 4-inch fabric strips. The neck one is 24 inches long, and then the 2 straps to tie around are a little bit longer than that. It's really up to you how you want to do it. You could also make skinnier straps for the tie straps. A lot of people prefer that to do like a much trimmer bias tape for the straps, but I'm just doing it all the same. So I cut 4 inches, and then I folded it in half and made the little crease with my iron, and then I folded the sides down and then folded it again so that 4 inches then becomes 1 inch, and it's 4 layers thick. And the first thing that I'm going to do is going to be sewing my little straps, and I'm just gonna sew down. And for the neck one, I could just sew both sides down, and that's the shorter of these. And then for the tie straps, I'm going to fold one side in to be the finished side, sewing around all 3 sides for that one. So up, across, and then down. So we have all our straps done. And then we're going to take our 2 fabrics and we're going to lay them faces toward each other. And this is going to be a turned piece since it's 2-sided. And I'm going to turn through the top rather than the bottom. It's easier for me then to add in my neck strap. But you could turn through the bottom and sew the neck strap in, and then when you turn it, have it be on the other side. But, you know, it's totally up to you how you want to do it. And then, now that it's roughly clipped, one thing I'm going to do that might be a little different than how some people do it is I am going to fold up one of my straps, just kind of loosely, to get it out of the way. And then I'm going to set it inside between the 2 layers. And you can tape it down, you can pin it down, something so that it's not in your way when you're sewing. And then this piece, the end, I'm going to line it up with the top here, or at least fairly close with the top here, with my seam allowance as extra. And I'm going to leave it out just about 1 inch. And that's going to be for the reinforcement stitches when it's all done. And then I'm going to pin that down right there. And then since I'm leaving the top to turn through, I'm just going to sew down, leaving about 1/4 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch, it's really up to you, of seam allowance all the way down, and then around, and then back up out the other side. Round out or trim off your corners to make turning a little nicer. I saw a really cute thing when my daughter was little where they made little kid aprons that looked like the different Disney princess patterns. And something like this could totally be done that way. Just before you sew it together, first sew together your outer and your inner separately, and you could have a reversible Disney princess apron. You could have, one side be Snow White and one side be Sleeping Beauty, and you would just sew all the details in with the one piece on each side before you sew them together. So now we're just going to turn it through the top here. To push out that corner, you can use a bodkin or a screwdriver or a crochet hook, whatever you want to get that corner nice and square if you want it square. You could also have made this rounded at the bottom if you wanted to do it that way. If you want a rounded bottom apron, you don't have to have the corners. You could have it be rounded at the bottom, and then it would be easier to turn as well. You could just have it be like an arc there instead. And then just like with diapers, I'm going to be doing top stitching around and closing up my turning hole with my top stitching. But before I do that, I'm first going to tuck in the inside at the top, and I'm going to tuck mine at least 1/2 inch, probably a little more, just to get a nice thick area and not make any mistakes. You could iron it if you want to have it really nice and crisp before you sew it. And then this is where I'm going to be adding in my strap to the top. And then if you want to do some ironing before you sew it up to make sure that your edges are really pushed out nicely and it's easier to sew, you can. Especially if you're having a kid do the sewing or a new sewist do the sewing and you don't want, them to feel bad if they miss their corner. But I just tend to push it as I go and just sew slowly when you're going around curves especially. And then I like to do a little box stitch or, a couple times over a little further down when you get back to the straps here, and the same thing on the sides. So there's your very simple reversible or lined apron. You could always add trim, you could always add detailing, you could always add pockets. But you know, this is sort of a general way to do a thin 2-layer reversible or lined apron. Tomorrow during my live stream, I'm going to be doing a 1-layer canvas apron. It's a little different. The inside will show some seams, but other than that, you know, it'll be nice and finished. And come with any questions you have or any suggestions you have or any troubleshooting you want to do, and I'll see you tomorrow. Happy sewing!